We have a little bit of gun talk going on this morning, as we do Fridays on the program. And first of all, I want to mention Todd Eccles is here from Patriot Defense. Uh, I know Forrest is taking a few days off from the store, so he may decide to take a day off from the program too as well. But of course, our other co-host is Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, right here in Twin Falls. That's on South Washington Street, in case you're wondering, because I realize you got north and south. Uh, people need to know those details if they're coming in from out of town. Actually, and in your case, two details. You don't have a shop per se,
Right.
you because you can teach a course really anywhere.
Yeah, I can, and I normally use the gun range out in Buell. The Buell Rifle and Pistol Club has it out there, and kind of in a transition. And then I think my last class was on Saturday, and I had to meet at my house. I have another separate building because I just moved. We're kind of in the construction process, and so I had to meet out there where there's a lot better heaters. So people can sit, we can in a nice classroom setting for the first part of the day, we can get nice and heated, warmed up. It's over in Buell, and then after lunch, transition and we meet back at the range after everyone goes and eats. Um,
Now, from what I know of Buell, I mean, I know where the bowling alley is, and I know downtown. Where would I find the range if I was out there?
the range is actually out Deep Creek Road. So if you're coming into Buell and you come to from Filer, you come to the first light, you hang a left on, I think it's Burley Avenue. You
Hmm.
follow that through town, you'll pass Les Schwab, and it'll take you clear out of town. And then the range is actually about a couple hundred yards past the entrance to the Buell Airport. And the Buell Airport will be on the north side, so the right-hand side of the road as you are headed west. So it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, I get out there for I know where the bowling alley is and all the restaurants, and that's about
Well, we still got to
about it.
get you out there, Bill, to come shooting.
Possibly January or February. I think we'll be doing it.
We can do it.
I'm going to have a little bit more time on my hands. I think come the new year, and so looking forward to it. And we were just talking off air. We brought this up last week, and then there was a story that went statewide. The number of people who are actually going through the enhanced permit process, and they were quotes from people all the way north in Kootenai County and in Ada County. People tend to think Ada County is a bit more liberal, but all over Idaho. And this has been, I know it's counterintuitive because you can carry without that permit, right? You can conceal carry without
Right.
that permit in the state. And the naysayers all said this was going to lead to all sorts of issues. We haven't had them, and more people are simply going through the process.
I think it's caused people to be more responsible. The people that are going to carry, they want to know the laws. They want to know all the important stuff that you need to know if you're going to carry a handgun. And I was actually thinking about this on the way in. I think what it's done too is since people think everyone's going to carry now,
Right.
maybe some people that they weren't going to carry decided, well, I want to carry too, but I need to know the laws. Does that make sense? So I think it's kind of doubled up on the people, and it's fantastic. More people are carrying. There's more of them, I think, looking for the laws, trying to do it the right way, the responsible way. And that's a great thing.
Now, what is it? You have to fire so many shots at the
Yeah,
actual range, right? It's
for
under 100.
yeah, it's 90. It's 98 rounds, and why the state came up with the number of 98 rounds. It's like they've never went out and bought ammunition in their life. Because if you're going to buy target rounds, you buy them in boxes of 50 or boxes of 100. So, yeah, you have to fire 98 rounds, and they don't give us any, exact drills, any ways you have to shoot these. So, I just do some nice, easy drills, right-handed, left-handed. We learn stuff. I figure if you're going to take the time and effort to go out and buy the ammunition, and you're going to go shoot at the range, you need to learn something from every shot. And so, right-handed, left-handed, we learn how to, sight acquisition, trigger squeeze, all that good stuff. We don't just go out there and bang, bang, bang till 98 rounds is shot up. We learn something from every round, and you leave there knowing how your handgun works. Hopefully, you've improved yourself. You've gained knowledge on what you need to work on next time you go shooting. And the last two rounds, since I tell everyone to bring 100 rounds, the last two rounds is something I do because maybe I'll just throw it out there. I'm cheap and I like to advertise. And so what we do is I put up bullseye targets, and then everyone in the class goes up there and they take two shots, and the closest shot wins a hat or a sticker or something like that. It's kind of a fun deal.
Somebody commented to me the other day that we still have to, 98 will let you clear the hurdle, the legal hurdle,
Sure.
but that you still after that really you should just continue practice, practice, practice.
Well, yeah, because you've got to develop that muscle memory, and shooting is not like riding a bike. It's a skill that will degrade over time, and I stress in my class. I mean, you can ask anyone who's ever taken my class, they probably just don't want to tell me to shut up and quit saying this, but it's all practice, practice, practice. If you can only afford to shoot 10 rounds a month, you need to go shoot 10 rounds a month. If you can afford to shoot 50 or 100, you need to shoot 50 or 100 rounds a month. You need to still practice those things. Keep that muscle memory, working, keep it ingrained. You got to treat that handgun. I tell everyone that you need to be able, if that gun is sitting on your nightstand next to your bed, that if someone kicks open your door at 2 o'clock in the morning, you need to be able to reach over, pick up that gun, and just instinctually know how it works, know what you need to do. You don't have time to think about it. It needs to become a part of you if you're depending on that to, you know, protect your life or the life of your loved ones.
And I was going to say the other portion of that when you reference the classroom, because I think that the critics also don't realize that there's that other part of it, that the classroom training is in the long run, I think going to be because anyone can become over time proficient if they're
Sure.
getting lots of practice, but the classroom training is critically important from the legal side.
Oh, it is. I mean, you have a certified Idaho law enforcement, and it's stated that the Idaho law enforcement officer that comes in and teaches the class has to be intermediate, post certification level or higher, and they have to come in and they teach all about Idaho lethal force laws. They teach about all the gun laws that even some federal gun laws, but gun laws that pertain to them in the state. What's going to happen if they fire their weapon in self defense? All the stuff that they need to understand, they need to know about because there's a lot of misnomers out there floating around the internet, and your neighbor may say, "Well, I'm going to shoot that guy as he's running out of my house." Well, you can't always really get away with that. You need to know this ahead of time so you can make the right decisions when the time comes.
I would also, I remember when I was in school, school still had rifle teams, for instance,
Sure.
and they're not common anymore, and I think it was liability issues and things like that that came up. Although you still have people in the Olympics, who are training with rifles and using them in competition. But if we had a way with younger people to be able to teach them not only that use but pistol use as well
Hmm.
at a young age, and I don't want to say make it mandatory because people should have the option of opting out if they feel that they don't want their kids involved with this. But if there was just a way to get larger numbers of young people involved, um, and create these sort of classes for them so that by the time they're 11 or 12 years old, they have a good, healthy understanding of how it works, but a good, healthy respect for that firearm too.
Sure, and there are some programs out there. My kids are part of Xavier Charter Schools Trap and Skeet Club. Okay, now there's that's with shotguns, obviously. There's different programs out there, and I can't recall the names off the top of my head, but there's some that have to do with shooting 22s and 22 pistols and 9mm handguns and different programs. If someone just wanted to get involved and set something like that up, it wouldn't be necessarily involve the schools, but it would involve the youth. Now, there is one thing out there that a lot of us, especially here in Idaho, go through, and that's hunter safety. If they could figure out how to get hunter safety, part of the schools, a class, okay, you can learn all this kinds of stuff. You can take the online portion, but if they could teach that in class in school, and then they could even do the gun portion if they're afraid of having the firearms in portion in school, they could have a separate field day on a Saturday, and they could go do that. That at least provide knowledge. I mean, how a gun works, what's going to happen, gun safety, and that's going to translate. Gun safety is going to translate from shotguns to rifles to handguns. I won't say it's exactly the same thing, but it's the same basic thing.
There was a video I saw it about a month ago. Steven Crowder put this video out where they literally they put up a tent on a street during a festival of some sorts,
Right.
and then they placed firearms out on card tables. And what they did is they had people come by and they would ask them which one of these is dangerous, which one isn't. And this is why I think that even people on the other side, if they would train, would at least have a better understanding of what they're complaining about. Because as he pointed out at the end of the video, if it has a wooden stock, they think it's fine. If it doesn't have a wooden stock and it's got more of that metallic look, then they think it's dangerous. Uh,
Media. It's all about the media. It's,
right.
it's what the media portrays.
Right. So they because wooden stock looks like what your grandfather hunted with, right?
Right.
And so then they see something else and they think, well, that's what the guys in the movies, the bad guys use, and so for that reason, that's dangerous. This one isn't. But the force coming out of the end of each barrel is pretty much the same.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
it's and that's the thing that if there was a way to bring some of this training to the opponents. We'll tell you what we'll do. We'll squeeze in a telephone caller and maybe get back to that. We have a caller with us. It's 9:16, almost 9:17 right now, 19 at our studios, at least on the outside, much warmer inside, thankfully. And you're on the air with Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense.
Good morning. Merry Christmas to you guys there. Uh, I've been watching this, what's going on with Obama right now, and all these agencies are advancing their programs, throwing everything against the wall that can possibly stick. EPA, Forest Service, BLM, they're moving now, right now. They're doing it, and I really believe we're going to see a massive gun control executive order in the next 3 weeks. How do you guys feel about that?
It could happen. Like you said, everything's being thrown at the wall to see if it'll stick. Definitely, it's what they call the lame duck session, and it could happen. I mean, keep your eyes open, be aware. Hopefully you got some, but talk to your neighbors about it, and just keep abreast of the news and what's going on. I mean, if it comes, we can't stop it. Maybe necessarily. Maybe when Trump takes office, we can figure something out. But it's all about knowledge and knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe what I'm seeing with the Forest Service and BLM and what's going on. EPA, the oil drill and everything, they're advancing their program through the holidays while they think we're all asleep and not watching.
Great thing is a lot of that would be reversible.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what we have to keep in mind is that somebody else out there in 3 weeks' time will come along and just say, all right, this is the new rule, and
We
we'll,
hope.
we'll move in that direction. I have read a little bit about that, and there was some discussion that indeed that I think that it had been some people in Washington had brought it up on the other side, but that was one area that they weren't going to get a lot of traction in their attempt.
Well, and they always have big plans, and there is a lot of times, you see it on Facebook, you see it in the news, you hear about it, and they end up losing traction. That's the one I think more and more people, and you actually mentioned an article earlier today, but more and more people are getting into the gun thing, thinking maybe this isn't so bad. This is a good thing. I need to have a gun. And more people have firearms and like to shoot and are getting into it than what you think. And I think over the while, I think they're slowly kind of losing all kinds of traction. To be honest with you.
There were some people who thought that the president would try to somehow, by fiat, that is like a divine right king, accept the UN gun treaty, which has been floating around for 15
That
years.
pops up all the time.
But on the other hand, you could accept it, but it's not going to after January 20th hold any weight if you think about that.
Right.
And it would be challenged obviously in courts and the like, and it would be stayed while it was challenged. So I think that you're right. People have tried to suggest that could happen before, but it doesn't look like it's likely. We've got a short break. On the other hand, that doesn't mean got to be vigilant. Todd Eccles is joining us this morning from Patriot Defense, and of course, we do want to put in a plug for Forrest Anderson at Washington Street Pawn again as well. Forrest is I know that the sales office had to call him yesterday about another matter, and he was at home trying to get some things done in advance of the holidays. So he's a busy, busy guy, no matter what day of the week it is. We've got a short break coming up, and then more discussion about firearms on the way on News Radio 1310 KLIX. I love that spot. We just heard from Washington Street Pawn, and of course, yes, find them on Facebook. You can go there and you can see some great offers and great deals that Forrest actually is offering at the store. We wanted to mention as well that Todd is on Facebook too.
Yeah, I'm always on Facebook. Actually, I only have the one today because it's actually a vacation day for my day job. But I normally have two phones with me, and yes, they are both hooked up to Facebook, and you can find me there under Patriot Defense. You can call me, you can text me at the area code 620-794-6223, and any of the numerous buy sell trade pages on Facebook around here, whether it be Buell's, Twin Falls, Magic, whatever. I mean, there's tons of them. I'm typically on there somewhere.
You referenced that. You must have been early in that game because when I remember years ago when I was setting up an email address back in the days of Earthlink, and I couldn't have B Collie, I had to have BB. So I was a latecomer, and obviously, even though my name is not that common, I still somebody already was there. Patriot Defense is likely one of those common names. So you must have been an early bird on Facebook.
I, you know, I don't know how early. I mean, I've been on there 3 or 4 years, so I don't know if that's early or not. Maybe I just got real lucky.
Yeah.
But it works out well, and some people will type in Patriot Defense and they'll find something else, and I don't know exactly what that is, but my logo is what pops up as a picture, and it's two flags crossed with a guy in his arm holding the gun, and if you look down, it'll tell you I'm in Filer or Buell, I'm in local, so that's me. You'll find me.
I was going to say I got into Facebook early because not well, I don't know how early it was. It had been around a while, but at the insistence of my daughter. And so I did it. And for 10 months, she was the only Facebook friend I had. And then radio listeners started to discover it,
Yep.
and it grew from there. But it's a repository for all things I'm talking about on the radio. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have much of an interest in it. So, but if you're a gun enthusiast, there's a lot of places online where you can go. It's just tremendous world out there we have on the internet with these sites and the like.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always going to be sites for people who like handguns, people who like ARs and rifles, and just people who like self defense in general. And I can't even go down the list in my head. There's just multi. I mean, I'm not on, but I've liked a ton of them just to keep up apprised of what's going on. And you can learn things. You can learn things you can use at the range, gun safety. They'll throw up articles, stuff that's happening with your Second Amendment rights, stuff that's in the news. That's how that's how you stay abreast of what's going on.
I watch the Hickok videos,
Well,
and
yeah, Hickok 45.
right, and what I find that I really like about that is he reviews firearms, but he doesn't necessarily badmouth any. He always points out that it depends on who you are, what your use is, but it's a fascinating show to watch
Hmm.
just because of the setup he has on his range.
Yeah,
Uh,
what does he call that? The compound?
yeah,
Yeah, he calls it the compound, and he doesn't. He doesn't really bad talk. There's always a use for every firearm that's out there. It's going to fit someone. This may fit you, Bill, and it may not fit me for some reason. And a firearm is a firearm, and it's going to fit somebody. So, but there's pros and cons about each. It depends on how you want to carry. I mean, I was talking with a gal that I actually go to CrossFit with. Okay, and she carries a smaller gun for protection. She carries it all around town and whatnot. But she had something happen to a friend of hers. Someone had gotten into her home. This is actually local in Twin Falls. I don't know the full story exactly. Someone had pushed his way into her friend's house and whatnot. Anyhow, this prompted this lady to look at what she was doing. And she's been thinking maybe she wants a higher capacity handgun for her house, something that's bigger, that she can still shoot, that has higher round capacity. She's not always going to carry that little tiny one with 6 rounds, on her, maybe at her house, but she thought maybe she could keep the bigger one, the full size one, in reach. And but she's really starting to rethink. It's funny how, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's funny how when something happens to you or someone close to you, you rethink how you do things.
we were talking about this earlier. If the people who are actually opposed to firearms and would like more restrictive laws, if they would actually take a course, learn about it, learn how to actually,
Yeah.
properly use one, also to learn about various models and various how they work, at least you would feel I might take them more seriously. I guess that's the way I look at that.
Right. Yeah, and actually I've got a good story. There's a friend of my wife's, and she's been here for a while now. She's from Maryland and very
They
anti.
shut down Beretta in that state.
Yes, very very anti-gun. Thought I was nuts, and I don't know that we always necessarily got along. But, we did okay, but she hated guns, hated guns, hated guns. She called, me up, or my wife up, out of the blue probably 5, 6 months ago and said, "I'm ready. I'm ready to take a course. It's gonna kill me. I don't like guns. I've never shot one. They terrify me, but it's time to take a class." And so she got a hold of my wife, and she paid for her and her husband. Her husband was fine with it. He's an Idaho boy, growing here, but she paid for it ahead of time. That way she would go, because she tried to take a class a couple years earlier, but she would never show up. She's like, if I pay the money, I will be there. So she met with my wife, gave her the money so she'd be there. She showed up there, to my class, and we started off slow, and it was bang bang bang, good to go. Bang bang bang, good to go. 25 rounds in. Hey, this is kind of fun. I think I like this. 98 rounds in, she's doing real good. The last 2 rounds, we even had our bullseye competition, and there's a lot of decent shooters in that class. But the key is she had no bad habits. She won. She won the bullseye competition out of I think there's about 22 people in that class. And she was smiling and she was, I don't know that she's ran out and bought a gun yet, but I think it made her think this isn't a bad thing if you use them safe and you use them correctly.
Now, well, you hear media use terms, and I think that the NRA has been pushing back on this because media would say assault rifle, and they actually think that's what AR stands for, which is not true. And then
Nope.
they would say semi automatic. And over the years, what we've started to see is there's been enough pushback, and media has started to learn this harms our credibility. So they're
Mhm.
starting to learn terminology and things like that. I'm noticing a little bit better now in the way they report these stories because they started to realize if we don't know what we're talking about and we use the wrong words, then we are going to be criticized, and then people are going to doubt anything we tell them.
Well, yeah, and I think it started out as obviously that's the way they wanted to do it. They wanted to use the wrong words. They wanted to strike the fear into people. They wanted to, have these key phrases. So as soon as they said assault rifle, what did you think of? A fully automatic M16, something that's going to, kill 400 people in one pull of the trigger, and then that just doesn't work. I mean, assault rifle. Uh, people look at an AR-15 and they say that's an assault rifle. That's what the AR stands for. That stands for Armalite rifle, model number 15. Armalite is the company that first came up with that design. That's what it means. But now I think you're right. They're kind of pulling back from that because the media is being criticized hard, and they have been for the last few years.
We've got more coming up with Todd Eccles for Patriot Defense, and we'll mention again Washington Street Quad, too, in just a couple of minutes right here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley handling phones. Todd Eccles and I were just talking during the break about some various firearms issues, and I shared with him that when I was a younger fellow, I would have friends from the city come visit me in my hometown, and sometimes if they came in November and deer season especially, they would be alarmed by all of the people walking with firearms slung over their shoulders they'd see alongside roads. And what are they doing in orange clothes? And then if you went to a diner or a tavern in my hometown, which is tiny, two traffic lights, if you went there to one of those places during hunting season, otherwise you could carry your hunting knife in any time of year, but during hunting season, there was a sign in the door that just reminded people that they had to check their firearms and their hunting knives and at the door, and that was fairly common practice too. But you could go in if you went in another time of year. I remember being shooting pool with some guys one time, and the guys that were playing pool with us both had big long hunting knives strapped to their belts, and they were the nicest people you could meet. We had a great time shooting pool with them. They were new to town, and but that was what we did. That's the thing is that people from other places just don't seem to understand it. They immediately get frightened when they see something like this without realizing that this is quite natural here.
Right, and then I was kind of portraying this kind of a same story. There's a buddy of mine that I go duck hunting with all the time, and his brother-in-law who lives in town. He's an ex law enforcement from California. He was up here. He decided to go out with us one day, and I carry my gun with me everywhere. And I don't necessarily take my handgun to the duck blind. I mean, I've got a shotgun with me, so I leave it locked up in my vehicle, safe. And as soon as I get back, I open my vehicle up, I take it up, I throw it up on the dash. Well, he saw that and he didn't say anything to me, but he talked to his brother-in-law and he's like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna get arrested. He can't do that. He can't drive down the road that G19 riding on his dash." And my buddy's like, "Yes, he can. This ain't California, man. This is Idaho. A lot of people do that." So yeah, it is different. I mean, depending on where you go, there's different cultures and different things people do in different areas. And it's man, I'd love to live in a town where everyone's walking down the road with a gun slung on their shoulder hunting deer. That'd be fantastic.
This also, though, was the fear that I think the folks who criticized the new concealed carry law was that there was just going to be everyone. It would be like an old western movie. Everyone was going to have that sidearm strapped on and be walking around town or concealing it too. But just that it was just suddenly going to be everywhere and there'd be Marshall Dillon in the street gunning somebody down who was misbehaving.
And that's what I heard too. And it hasn't happened yet. When I lived in Kansas for 6 years, I lived in Idaho, then I moved to Kansas for 6 years. And when they enacted the concealed carry laws up there, the same thing. They thought there was going to be bloody shootouts in the street, and it didn't happen there. It didn't happen here. I think people are probably more respectful because they don't know who's got a gun. They're probably more careful. In fact, I've seen because the constitutional carry went into effect. I've seen less people. I don't think I've actually seen anyone open carrying since that went into effect, which is kind of cool. People are exercising their rights, and you just got to be careful. You don't know who's got a gun, and that is that goes the same for criminals. That should affect criminals too. If they go into that Walmart, they go into that restaurant, they go into that bank, they don't know who's armed and who's not armed. They don't know what they're up against. And they want to go and do something bad where the odds are stacked in their favor. And around here, it's probably not.
See, when you were in Kansas, though, if you were in Kansas City or you were in Topeka or one of the other large cities, Wichita, they likely have problems in the cities. They don't. This is the difference. But the people in the cities aren't trained properly in firearms either, and that's the other part of this. They're just willy nilly. The real tragedies happen is because they don't know what they're doing, and they hit innocent bystanders.
Well, right. And I don't know that, and I try to stay out of the big cities. I
And
hated,
and they stole most of those firearms.
yeah, and I hated Wichita anyway. But no offense to anyone who likes Wichita. Too many people for Filer is too big for me, so I'd rather live in Jarbidge. But anyhow, back to on topic here. I don't know if it was necessarily if you heard about more shootouts and stuff in those cities, if they were maybe the same amount, they were still the gang members, they were still the guys, the bad guys, meaning to do people harm, and I think they just got more publicity because of the fact that that law came out. Look at all the shootings. Look at all the shootings. Well, I think those shootings are still there because it's still bad people doing it. They weren't
Right.
the educated people who were licensed to carry legally.
And this is why, in a lot of these cities which have restrictive gun laws, if they would relax them, then the law abiding people would know how to defend themselves and perhaps stop some of these people before they actually created more carnage.
Well, right, and a lot of your law enforcement officers will tell you, we're glad that you carry. We're glad that you're doing this legally, that you're doing this responsible because you help us." They understand that they're not gonna be able to get anywhere like that, but there's people everywhere. And there's gonna be everyday ordinary citizens in that quick stop when it gets robbed. Maybe someone there will help them. So there's less carnage, there's less death.
We want to mention Todd Eccles and Patriot Defense are on Facebook. If they just type in that search for Patriot Defense, it's going to come up.
Yep, they should find me.
What's the telephone number if they'd like to call you?
Area code 620
That's
7
Kansas.
Kansas. It's a Kansas cell phone number, so I'm not going to get rid of it. Too many people know me by it. So area code 620-794-6223. I know that bothers some people because when I call them back, they can call me. I can call them right back, and it goes to our voicemail because they're going, "What is this number?"
And we want to point out, too, that some of your business cards with that number are also available over at Washington Street Pawn. So if you're in the shop today, pick up the card, and then you'll have Todd's information right there at the ready. We've got a short break coming up, 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock, and it's 20 outside on our way into the low 30s before the day is over with. And then some snow should start falling later today through tomorrow, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches across the valley. We're wrapping up the week, and we're talking firearms with Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. And we do want to mention, of course, as well, Forrest Anderson has his hands full getting ready for, filled, getting ready for Christmas. So Forrest is not in studio with us, but Washington Street Pawn is on South Washington Street. You can also find Forrest on Facebook. You can go to Washington Street Pawn and find out about a lot of the great deals. Speaking of which, great deals. I had a caller yesterday, Todd, from somewhere here in the area, and he called in and he mentioned that he signed his wife up for your class as a Christmas present. We want to get to that in just a moment. But Todd has been talking to me too as well over the last few weeks about weight loss because he's a thin guy, and at one time you weren't. I'm working on it, and I'm working on it with something called the Total Body Transformation System, which promotes healthy weight loss and wellness. I put up a video. Don Chandler was in studio with us the other day talking about this. I put up a video that it's already gotten 3 dozen views. That's pretty impressive for a diet video that we didn't do a lot of promotion with. 3 dozen views because people are, especially this time of year, if you want to keep that resolution, this will help you do it because most people don't. It's not a yo-yo diet. It's not fad diet. It's not a crash plan. You won't walk around hungry. You'll get plenty of calories. You'll be able to eat the foods you still like. The meal replacements, though, that you'll have that will help you with this, they're actually healthier than the meals most people actually eat. And while losing weight, again, you will have that. I found that I wasn't hungry all the time. That was the other challenge for me. It's put together by a team that has been doing this for over 20 years. They have an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. It's been approved by scientists who've studied it from Columbia, Cornell, Tufts, and other prestigious universities. You can burn fat 6 times faster and lose 8 times more weight than normal results from diet and exercise alone. The average participant is dropping 22 pounds in 60 days and losing 4 inches off the waist, which means, of course, you have to buy a new belt. Some of us had old belts around. We just went back to those. We wanted to point out, too, as well, um, that it will help you with appetite control throughout the day. And he backs this up, Don does, with an unconditional full money back guarantee. You can reach Don Chandler by calling him. He actually has an Idaho exchange. 208 731 3560. Once again, call Don Chandler in Twin Falls if you'd like to know more about this impressive weight loss program. That's 208 731 3560. The other part of this, you mentioned, since when you're carrying, if you've got a big spare tire, it makes it more difficult to carry,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
I'm kind of glad you went down this road because I was going to jump into it anyway. It's kind of funny. Some people who know me, maybe the people I work out with, that kind of thing, they know. My wife knows. But one of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, I decided to get healthy and lose some weight, and it's because I saw the history in my family of what can happen, back surgeries, all heart attacks, whatever. I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to feel good, but I also wanted to appendix carry. Can't appendix carry if you're experienced around the middle. You just can't do it. So that was kind of one of my goals. I thought I'd work out, I'd eat right, I'd do what I needed to do to lose some weight, and then I'd buy myself an appendix holster. And by golly, I got there, and I love it. And just being a fit person, okay, and not having extra around the middle makes it a lot easier to conceal carry a handgun or carry a handgun. Period. Your options grow when you got room around your waistline. So it's not a bad thing.
Well, we talked about hunting earlier, and every year there are the sad stories about the people who go out and then they end up being carried out because
Yep.
they weren't in the best of shape when they decided to go. So, it's a sport, and you've got to be ready for it.
Mhm.
And so, those are critical things people have to remember, and also your reaction time. If
Yep.
you were in an emergency where you needed to defend yourself, your reaction time is better because you're comfortable with how you now carry that pistol.
Well, that too, and I tell everyone, these things should go hand in hand. I need to be able to run across the parking lot or run across my house really quick, grab my kids and my wife, or run toward the bad guy to stop him or to defend myself and my family without being winded and wore out by the time I get there. And if you pick up, if you from right here where I'm sitting right now, my heart's not going 100 miles an hour, but I need to be able to jet across the room and still have energy to go on. And
Right.
when you're defending yourself, you need to be able to move. You need to be able to have the energy to sustain a fight, possibly.
And it's also going to be more difficult because the adrenaline is pumping.
Yep.
You get that fight flight reaction.
Yep.
So you'll start to feel it in your neck tightens. All these things happen, and you have to be in tip top condition because
You
some of that stuff's trying to shut you down.
Yeah, you need to be able to focus. You need to be able to, have that aerobic and that aerobic exercise down because you need to be able to draw that gun on fire. If your heart's racing 100 miles an hour and you're bouncing all over the place, your adrenaline's going to be pumping, but that's already going to be difficult to gather yourself up and make a nice concentrated shot. But if you're aerobic and you get out and you got less body mass that you're carrying around, you're going to be able to do that quicker and more efficiently. And you can probably hear it in my voice, but I'm really passionate about this. And the more and more I do this, I've been doing this for a little over a year now. As far as working out and getting myself in shape, the more and more passionate I become because I can see how it has actually improved my shooting. It's improved everything. When I take my kids hunting, I want to go out and chase that elk. I want to chase that deer. When I'm on the range, I can steady my gun so much better. Use certain muscles in your shoulders and your neck to steady that gun. And if you've got them, it's a heck of a lot easier.
Now, we wanted to point out too if you've got a question or comment for Todd today, because training you do need to be healthy as well. Uh, Not that everybody was walking in as a marathon runner, but
Right,
we
and
want to point that out.
sure.
But if you've got a question or comment for him today, 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story this morning at News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We've got about 10 minutes to go, and we've got 23 right now. So it does look like we'll hit that 30-degree benchmark today. you still have a class coming up in early January. Is it filled?
No, it's not filled yet. I've got a few people signed up for it, but it's not filled. I got plenty of room. It's on January 7th. And you guys, you can call me. You can get a hold of me clear up to the 6th. Okay. I'll put you in the class. I've had a few people call me and they don't know what their schedules are doing because of the holidays and the New Year's and whatnot. And you can wait and you can get a hold of me on the 6th even and let me know for sure. I have a lot of people that have gotten a hold of me and they're interested in this class because their kids are back from college. And now since this new law went into effect, 18 years old, they can still carry in the state of Idaho, but they have to have this class. They have to have the enhanced permit. And so
Until they're 21, right?
until they're
Right.
21, yes. And so what happens is dads call me up, moms call me up, say, "Hey, we want to take this class, but we want to take it as a family. My kid's back from school. He's going to be home between this date and this date. We want him to take it or her to take it with us." And so that's fantastic when that happens. Families in the class it's a fun thing. It's got to kind of get a little competition when you're shooting, but it's fun. We have a lot of fun, but it's really nice to see that the younger kids, the 18-year-olds, are taking part in these classes and learning because they're really where the future is.
Speaking of competition, and I don't know that that's the right word because a lot of people who are doing what you do, um, there seems to be enough business for everybody. But one of your competitors, business competitors, I guess, referenced to me that they do smaller classes because it's better because you can work more directly with people. So you have a limit, right? Like a size limit.
I try to have a limit, yes, and I try to keep it between anywhere from 15 to 20 people. And you're gonna say that's a lot for one guy. Well, it's not just me. Okay, there's a lot of other people. There's some guys that I know I can call on, and they come and help me on the line. And then if I have a couple of them on the line, it frees me up to help everyone. And these other folks that I have come in are very very knowledgeable as well, or I wouldn't have them there helping me. And we kind of split the class up. I overview everything, but you can come into the class. You don't even ever have to have shot a handgun before. I've got a handgun you can borrow as long as you provide the ammunition. And in fact, that's like the best thing ever because you don't have any bad habits and you're going to leave there knowing nothing but good stuff, hopefully. But we can work with you. I mean, I've had numerous people come in who've never touched a handgun or who were scared and I'm able to help them. And what you got to understand is people in the shooting community are very, very, very helpful and you're going to get a ton of advice. Okay, they all want to help you. And so come on in. Don't be afraid, don't be shy. We'll work with you. We'll give you the individual attention. If I've got to stay after class, and I've done that before. I had a gal that came in, she was so unnerved by handguns. She 3 shots in, she burst into tears and left, or she wanted to leave, and I said, "Hey, don't worry about it. You and your husband, you guys go get dinner, go home. Come back at, like, 5 o'clock, and I'll work with just you and your husband." And that's what they did, and we got her through it. I know even 10 people is too many people for someone. I'll work with you. I'll do what I need to do, even if we gotta come back later on in the week and do your shooting portion. I have no problem doing that. I want everyone to have a good experience. I don't want them to be scared when they leave. I want them to understand how it works and just enjoy shooting for what it is.
Now, when I was a younger fellow, I was working in radio and television in Syracuse, New York, which I was telling Todd, by the way, that they one time had 44 consecutive days of measurable snow when I lived there. So the storm this weekend, they just call it Tuesday in that part of the country, or Monday, whatever day it happens to be. But I had some friends who worked at the local police department, and the shooting range they had, the training range, was in the basement of the public safety building, which was where the police department was located. And they took me down there. And first of all, the thing that you notice is the sound is deadened because you didn't want people upstairs hearing it while it was
Sure.
going on. But it was relatively small, and I can remember bringing that up, and that was because even among the people who these were professional marksmen because it's the nature of their work, but their of course, and their training was ongoing.
Right.
But the classes were small, the groupings were small because that way, the your instructor's still with you, even if you're a 12-year or 15-year veteran, and he wants to work with that small group because if he's got 100 people, he can't see what everybody's
Well,
doing.
exactly. And I don't know if anyone has, I think I posted it earlier this week, a video of my last class of some of the people on the line shooting. And what it is this is what you need to understand. I may sign up 20 people, I may sign up 22 people for my class, but when we go do the shooting portion, we're not all lined up shooting at one time. I take groups of, it depends on Depends on the experience level of the people and how many people I have. But I think this last one, I think I broke down into like 7 people at a time. And when you've got me and another guy on 7, helping 7 people, that's plenty of help, and you get all personalized help that you need. 7 people and 2 instructors pretty much. And so they shoot that 7 shoots, and when they're all done shooting, they step back, and the next 7 step up and they shoot. When they're done, they step back. So I may have 20, 22 people in the class, but only 7 are shooting at one time. So I can keep an eye on everyone, keep it safe, and help everybody.
I had a note last week from a retired school teacher, and we addressed it briefly at the end of the show. She lives out in Rupert, and she's looking for a place to just to practice indoors. And she said she doesn't have a lot of options out there, and she's hoping to find somewhere in the valley. She may have to drive a little bit to do it. Are there good places to find in anywhere around here to do that?
Yeah, there's only two indoor ranges that I know of around here. One of them is the Buell Rifle and Pistol Club. Now you have to become a member of that, but it's relatively inexpensive. I don't have the information right now in front of me on who to contact for that. But for me, it's an indoor range and they give you a key. Okay. For me, my wife and my 5 kids, it's like $60 a year.
Right.
It's inexpensive. Now, there's also the same guy that I deal with out there is also a member of the Twin Falls Gun Club, and it's right here in Twin, and it's indoors. And I think they're set up a little different. I think they have certain nights that you can go in and shoot, and they have a range master and all this stuff. I'm not quite sure what it costs to join that, but I would poke around a little bit. You can find me on Facebook. If you find me on Facebook, message me. Uh, Call me, text me. I will find that information for you and let you know because I think I'm such a diehard. I'm train, 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 practice, practice, practice. That if you're willing to come that far and even drive down here to Twin Falls, I will get you the information you need that you could possibly get hooked up and join one of those clubs and shoot.
I was going to say it's a lot of people out there, especially this time of year. Outdoor ranges are fine, but it's only 20 degrees at 12,
Ye-
up to 24. But when it gets windy and everything else, first of all, you don't want to be out there in this.
And it's almost depending on how you're shooting, it's almost kind of a dangerous thing to a certain extent because you got hands, you got gloves, you can't barely feel the handgun in certain gloves, and an actual pair of thin shooting gloves aren't typically going to keep your hands warm. So then you got cold, numb hands. You're trying to deal with your firearm. The wind's blowing even 2 miles an hour. This time of year is going to be cold. You drop a loaded gun. You don't want to be doing that. Your best bet is just to go inside somewhere like that.
And I've noticed some people are trying the mittens where you pull the top off and you get the free fingers. But even
You
then,
know how quick your fingers get cold? I
yeah.
a couple years ago,
Oh, going to the grocery store yesterday, just walking across the parking lot. Sure.
4 or 5 years ago, I got my AR and I thought, oh, I'm gonna go shoot it. And it was about this time of year, and I went out and shot. I was good for about 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't feel anything. My fingers hurt. I'm going home.
Yeah. And that's and also depending on wind gusts as well.
Yeah,
Now, that projectile is traveling fast enough. It's not like I saw a football game a few years ago where the kicker, he tried to kick a field goal and the wind came up and gusted and blew the ball sideways
right.
after it got in the air. That's not going to happen with a projectile traveling at that speed, but still, it could hurt a little bit of your accuracy.
It can, and what everyone needs to once you get into shooting handguns and you want to train up, you want to practice, train in cold weather. That's not a bad thing to do. Training in cold weather is a good thing to do. Training with your how to draw and move your cover garment, which in the winter may be a big thick winter coat, and it may be shooting with gloves. That's a good thing. But if you're just starting out, especially, you don't want to go out there because you're going to be hurried because it's cold. You just want to shoot and go home, and that's when you're going to develop bad habits.
By the way, we got a thank you from Rupert. So
Okay.
I just came in via email. Uh,
No.
these school teachers, they're tough people. I'm
They need to get a hold of me, and I'll get them the information.
And that is a debate. We've only got about 30 seconds to go, but now there's the debate going on that we would likely arm teachers in Idaho schools. And a lot of people out there will say, oh, no, 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 no. But you know what? If somebody who's I mean, they're trained in doing this and they know what they're doing, if it makes your kids safer,
Well,
I'm in.
I look at it as this: you want to be responsible for my kids while they're at school. Then you need to protect them at school like they're protected at home.
Yeah. Can you give out your telephone number one more time?
Yeah, area code is 620-794-6223.
794 6223.
223.
And of course, the area code
20.
620.
Yep.
So, um, I'm going to send that back to her too as well.
Okay.
We want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Todd,
Oh,
and
everyone else too. Merry Christmas.
you'll be here next week with Steve Millington,
Okay.
and we'll talk again in 2 weeks.
We'll do it.
All right. We've got a short break coming up, and the Rush Limbaugh program following news at 10 o'clock from Fox. Bill Colley with you as well, and I will talk to you again. I'm scheduled to talk to you again on January 3rd. I always have to say scheduled because you never know in life what's going to happen. God willing, if the creek don't rise, they'll allow me to come back and do that sometime next year.